Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Math. Today, we're doing something slightly different. What we're going to be doing today is looking at a concept called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. What that is, and how it could help your child. So the audience for this video is not so much my usual audience, who tend to be students, where we work through a problem or some problems together. But my audience is going to be a lot more parents of students who are struggling with learning, with special learning needs or learning disabilities, specifically in the math classroom. The examples I use today are going to be from a range of teaching experiences, mine and observing other colleagues. But for the most part, this is aimed at parents of kids who are struggling to learn math in the intermediate to early high school range. So what we're looking at today is, as I said, universal design for learning. Now, two things that I want us to remember before we get too far into it. One, I'm going to abbreviate this as UDL a lot of the time in this video. All right. Second thing is that a lot of teachers in New Zealand are under huge amounts of pressure. So I want to be clear that any of the comments and suggestions I make in this video, they're just ideas. The math teachers could support your children, could potentially support your children. But this is in no way a critique of the work that teachers are doing. I have a huge amount of respect for them. They are amazing. With all that said, let's look at the three principles of UDL and how that might look in that math classroom for your student who's struggling with learning in the sort of intermediate to early high school range. So the first part is engagement, or the why of learning. Why are we learning this? The math teachers I've worked with will agree that this is a very common question. Why are we even learning maths? How is it going to be helpful for my life? Now, depending on the content, that can be easier or harder. Some examples of this that I've used in my practice are things like when we're looking at rounding, connecting rounding and money, percentages, percentage change, how much a big one is cost of living. Some of my slightly older students, how insurance premiums are going up for their first car, how much they're going up by, all that kind of thing. So connecting it to the world they live in. Some kids are really motivated by test scores. And there are times where the thing we're learning is specifically for a test. And that's okay. I'm quite often upfront with my kids about that. Representation. This is really about the what of learning. What are we learning? What I really like is we'll do a bit of what's called chalk and talk. Um, it's quite, I'm not sure what the new sort of updated language for this one is because we don't have chalkboards anymore. But this is where a teacher will stand at the front of the room and talk. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is a way of presenting what we're learning. Another way would be one-on-one. And this is a lot of the work that I do is one-on-one with the student. We can also use our peers. I like this one because it's very much a tuakana relationship, where one student maybe understands it and one student doesn't. That's all explaining. We can also use things like videos. We can do demonstrations, and so on and so forth. Then we're going to look at action and expression, which is about how. How are we learning? And how are we presenting what we learned? So this video is actually a really good explanation of this step. because at the moment, some of you are aware, I'm studying for a master's in education. Our assignment was our assigned work was to learn about universal design for learning, and the assessment was a bit around explaining it. And so I suggested that I could create a video and talk to you guys about it as a way of presenting how am I showing what I've learned. Other examples, another example that I really like is how, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I spin around in my chair a lot. I fiddle with pencils while I'm learning. And so part of this is just about having an inclusive, safe environment where students can do that. So fidget toys while learning. Maybe some students like to sit under the desk when they're reading. That's all examples of different ways of learning. Just to come back to this, what are we learning? Also bearing in mind for our blind and low vision students, large print. For our deaf, hearing impaired, and students with auditory processing challenges, providing captions, and transcripts for videos. So some of our other how are we learning? We're learning how are we showing our learning? We're producing a video. We're playing with fidgets while we're learning. Maybe rather than sitting in the chalk and talk sort of scenario, we're reading books. Maybe we're doing our own research. They're all different ways of learning and different ways of sort of expressing our learning. I'm really lucky in that I'm able to produce a video while spinning around in my chair and fidgeting with a pen. That's inclusive. And the really cool thing, and this is why I really like universal design for learning, is that it's not so much about doing it all in the same way. It's doing it in a way that works for you and your child, which is cool. I've learned the same information that everyone else in my class has learned, but I've done it in a way that works for me, and I presented it in a way that works for me. So that's the wrap on universal design for learning. Oops. For those wondering, no, I didn't come up with those questions myself, the why, what, and how. That came from this article here, the song article, and then obviously the infographic came from the Ministry of Education. That's it from me. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe for more content.